All right, well, welcome back. This is part 3 of small group leader training for the fall 2018 semester, and I'm so glad that you're back. This time, this video is all about your very first session with your group. Now, I want you to schedule this particular time to accomplish a very specific task. So when you're putting your plan together for your group, I don't want you to expect your group to have already read the first chapter and be ready to jump into questions. Your first session is really about establishing relationships, setting the guidelines for your group and how it will behave together and how it will live together over the semester, and then setting your group up for success over the next 10, 12 weeks, no matter how long your group is. So you're going to do some very specific things in your first group. So I want you to turn to page 7 in your workbook, and we will begin there. When you get to page 7, you will see that it is the syllabus for my small group this semester. So I'm leading a group, the Invention small group. It's a group for guys, and we're going to go through Justin Camp's book, Invention. And so what you see on that syllabus is probably way more detail than what you will do with your own syllabus. But you'll see a welcome paragraph about the name, with the name of the book, and that we're glad that I'm glad that they're going to be in part of my group. It talks about when we're going to meet, the first meeting and the last meeting. It talks about what time, and a little bit of a synopsis of what the book is. And then it goes into a week-by-week calendar of the reading assignments and the conversations that we will have based on that material. So as you can see, so Wednesday, September 5th is the first time that my group will meet. We'll meet at 6:30. And that session is just exactly what I'm going to walk you through here in just a minute. It's an introduction, it's a handing out of material, it's talking about the small group covenant, and setting the expectations for the group. So then you see that underneath that, there's homework. So I expect, and I tell my groups that on that first session, I said, I expect you to read the material. When we get together each time, I will have the conversation, and I will participate and lead and facilitate that conversation, assuming that they have already read the material. And I want you to do that same thing. I know there will be weeks where somebody walks in and the first thing they do, they slump down in their seat and they go, oh, you will not believe the week I had. I couldn't get to all the reading. Those weeks are going to happen. It's part of life. I totally understand it. But that doesn't change the way that I'm going to facilitate that conversation that day. I come into each meeting assuming that they have done the reading and that they are ready to have the conversation. I want you to do the exact same thing. And you set that ground rule at the very first meeting. So you see for September 12th, we'll just look at it, read pages 1 to 14. And then on Wednesday, September 12th, I list out what the chapters are and what the conversation will be about. So it'll be about before you start, which is the little intro to the book, and then chapter 001, which is called Flesh and Blood and Burnout. And so we will have conversation around those sections of the book, which is pages 1 to 14. And then it goes on and on and on. And you'll see on Wednesday, September 26th, this is particular for my group. I'm going to be out of town that day, and because it's so early in the semester, I'm just going to have them not meet that week rather than try to throw somebody in and meet that week. If there are weeks where you know you're going to be out, that's why you have a coordinator. That small group coordinator is your go-to person to jump in when you need to be out. And if you don't have that person already, by the end of the first session together, you need to have that person picked out and have a conversation with them if you know already that you're going to be out. But so I already know that I'm going to be out, and I'm not going to burden somebody that early in the semester with leading. So we're just going to not meet that week. It's not ideal, but that's the way it's going to be. So then you can see that it goes on On to the next page, and there at the end of the semester, after Wednesday, November 14th, which is our last meeting, you see what we're talking about. But then I have serving dates, and I have 2 serving dates that are to be decided. And so at that first session, what I want you to do, and what I'm going to do at my first session, is to have some conversation around the table about where would we like to serve and when would we like to serve. Ideally, it's once a month, so I've picked September and October because we're going to get finished the early part of November. And so I want our group to serve together sometime in September, sometime in October, and we will have a conversation about what those mission opportunities look like. And then we'll write those down, we'll put them on the calendar, and go from there. And then after that, you see that there's an end of semester gathering date. So on November 14th, which is our last meeting together, we're going to meet together at a restaurant rather than here at the church. And we're going to have dinner together. We're going to celebrate the semester. And this is even before Thanksgiving. So we're going to have the opportunity to celebrate what God has done in our lives in that semester and look forward to what celebrating Christmas might look like differently because of what's happened over the past 8 or 9 weeks. So that's our syllabus. That's the syllabus that I'm using. You certainly do not have to have something that detailed. Really, if all you have is these are the pages you need to read for this particular week, and you've got that all lined out, just give it to them. Let them know ahead of time that's what they need, and that'll be good to go. So, for your first small group, on page 9, you'll see a possible itinerary for what your first meeting can look like. Remember, this isn't about having read a bunch of stuff and being ready to have conversation around your material. This is really about setting the ground rules. So when you start, if you start at 6 or 6:30 or whenever you start, for the first few minutes, it's just allowing people to arrive, allowing people to meet one another if they don't know each other. Sometimes in our group system and in our church of this size, lots of people know each other. And so it's not necessarily getting to know somebody brand new, but it's getting to know somebody in a new setting. And so allow those first few minutes, first 10, 15 minutes to be getting to know them time. Have them just, if you have light refreshments, that's fine, whether it's coffee or tea or snacks or whatever. Just give them time to talk with one another and get to know each other. Then, after about 15 minutes, you as the group leader need to stop and you need to pray with everybody. Just stop whatever action there is, pray for your time together, and begin your facilitation of that group. Then, after you pray, have everybody sit, or however you want to set that up. Have everybody sit, and one by one introduce themselves to one another. Talk a little bit about why they are part of the group. What excited them about signing up, or was it the material? Was it the people that were in the group? What was it that drew them to that particular moment and to your particular group? So take about 10 minutes to do that. Just a little quick get to know you. I mean, if you've got 15 people in your group, this is 30, 45 seconds apiece. This is not long drawn out kind of conversation. Then have some kind of introductory game after that. There are, because of the church of our size and our community of our size, lots of people know each other from lots of different ways. So find a way for your group members to get to know something new about the other group members in there, even if they're family members. Even if they're family members, find a way for them to share something that somebody else doesn't know, or somebody else wouldn't know, or they've never told somebody. So there are all sorts of icebreaker kinds of games. Just go on Google and Google icebreaker games. You'll get about a bajillion hits, and pick one and go with it. Spend about 10, 15 minutes introducing them, reintroducing the group to each other, so that you have the opportunity and they have the opportunity to learn something new about them. Maybe asking them questions that they think about themselves in a new way. Then you move into your particular materials. So if there is a study guide that goes along with your group, this is when you hand it out and you say, this is the book that we're going to read, and everybody gets a copy of it, and we provide that for them. You can collect the money at the end of that first session or whenever they hand it to you. But the material gets handed out to them, and then just kind of walk them through it and get them familiar with it. Then you hand out your syllabus. It can be as detailed as the one that I showed you that's in your packet from my group, or it can be as simple as read these pages, or read this chapter for this date, and on and on. But show them this is the plan for the semester. If there's anything else that they need to know about the material, whether it's 2 books or 1 book, or whether this semester is a continuation of another semester, or the beginning of a semester that's going to continue, where they're going to need to sign up for another semester, whatever it is, hand it all out. Try to do your best to orient them to it, then answer any questions that they might have about the material, and see what comes up. And if there aren't any questions, or once you've dealt with all the questions, then you move on. You move on to the small group covenant, which is actually page 10 in your handout, in your workbook. And what I want you to do is I want you to read through this carefully. I want you to go point by point. I really do want you to walk all the way through this covenant, because it sets the ground rules for how you operate as a group. It's how you do life together. Because here's the thing. You're only going to be together for 8, 10, 12 weeks this semester. And in order to do life well together over that 8 to 12 weeks, you have to agree to a few things. You have to agree to be present. You have to agree to be prepared. You have to agree to participate in the functions that your group does. That's part of doing life together. We'll talk about the covenant in just a minute. So read through it, explain each of the points. If there are any questions, answer those questions to the best of your ability. If there are any questions that are asked about the covenant that you don't know the answer to, or stump you, just get a hold of me, and I'll do my best to answer those questions for you and get that information to you and to your group member. If I need to have a conversation with them, that's fine, no problem. If there's somebody that's really hammering on a point, ask them to have some conversation with you afterwards, or get in touch with me. So once you've gone through a whole covenant, then have them sign it and then hand it in to you. Remind them that that is between them and God and your group, and it's really a covenant that they make together so that they know how to do life together. Then you need to get some volunteers out of your group. One is for somebody to coordinate your play date, your event at the end of the semester to celebrate. You need somebody to be the point person, whether you need to make reservations or collect payments or whatever you need to do for that. You need somebody to coordinate all of that, and I don't want it to be you as the small group leader. Next, if you're going to have food during your group, if you're going to have snacks or meals or whatever during your regular meetings, you want somebody to be the coordinator for those things. So you have a snack coordinator who says, okay, here's a list of our dates. They take your syllabus and they go, okay, we need, somebody for 2 weeks from now, for 3 weeks from now, and you send around a list and you get people to sign up to do that. Now, your group does not have to have snacks. Some folks find that a burden, and that's fine. Some of you may end up meeting at a place, at a restaurant or something like that, or somebody's home, and snacks just kind of magically appear, or food comes because individuals order it, that kind of stuff. That's all well and good. However you want to work that out as a group is fine, but if you're meeting at the church or you're meeting at somebody's home and snacks are going to be provided, or some kind of food and drink are going to be provided, you need somebody to coordinate all of that so that it doesn't end up back on you as the group leader. And then if you have not found your small group coordinator, your right-hand person, then this is the time to find him. Before you leave that evening or that afternoon or that morning, you need to take them by the shoulder and say, hey, I need you to be my second in command for this group. And here's why, here's what I see in you, and here's what I need, and this is what it involves. And we've talked about that in the previous videos, what the coordinator does by communicating with the group and praying for the group, sending out the reminders and the prayer requests. But you need that person. So by the time your first session is over, you need to have that coordinator ready to go, all filled in with what they need to do. Then you're going to come back together, you're going to share prayer requests, you're going to close in prayer, and then send everybody off for the evening or for the afternoon, whenever your group meets. And you can stick around if you've got extra time. If for whatever reason, if you're scheduled for 90 minutes or 2 hours and it only takes an hour, just spend some time again getting to know one another and building those relationships that you may not have as much time to do during the course of your regular scheduled times during the rest of the semester. So that's what your first group meeting will look like, or should look like. Now, I want to take a look at the small group covenant. That's on page 10 of your outline. And you can see it changes every semester. If you've been a small group leader before, this looks really familiar, except I've changed the dates. So this is a small group covenant for fall 2018. This is what it says. It says, welcome to the fall 2018 small groups at First UMC Sulphur Springs. Congratulations on your desire to grow deeper in your relationship with God through this weekly study and the relationships that will begin in this small group. Now, here's the part. Here's the covenant part of it. It says, as a member of this group, you'll be asked to enter into a covenant with the other members of this small group to make this group a priority. And to be part of this group, you're asked to make the following 5 commitments. First is that you will attend every week. You'll keep up with your assignments, and you'll participate in group discussion. This is key. You gotta show up. I can't emphasize this enough, and you as the small group leader can't emphasize that being there is the key to a small group happening well and allowing for life transformation. So make it a priority. Put it on your calendar and block it off. Don't, unless it is just an absolute emergency or something that's already on the calendar from a year ago, make sure that you can do it and be there each week. Second is that you will regularly attend worship. Part of growing as a disciple of Christ is worshiping corporately with one another, with the believers. And so part of the commitment that you make as a member of the small group, of a small group, is to not only be in attendance in your small group, but then worship regularly each week at the church. And also to contribute to the ministry of the church through being there by your presence, by giving, by serving, and inviting other people. So those are the things that we do naturally as part of the body of Christ. And so part of being in a small group is to pay special attention to attending to those things. Third is that you will strive to build authentic relationships with those in this group by showing care, providing encouragement, and praying for their needs. So being Christ to the members of your group, praying for them, encouraging them. If they miss a week, find out what's going on. Maybe they got sick, or maybe they're in the hospital, or maybe they're traveling. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, provide care for one another. Be the hands and feet of Christ to your group members and then to the community at large. Fourth is that you will serve together during the semester and that you will play with your group at the end of the semester. Part of being in a small group is not just the regular meetings each week, but serving together, either in the church or in the community as a group, and then playing together, celebrating at the end of the semester how God has changed you and how God has transformed you, what God has done in your group and through your group, and celebrating those wins. That's what you want to do. Those are some of the most motivating things to come back for a next semester. That's number 4. And then number 5 is to explore honestly your next steps for spiritual growth. And these run the gamut of possibilities. It could be that that God has laid upon your heart to be a small group leader, somebody in your group to be a small group leader next semester, or a coordinator for a small group next semester. Or maybe it's as small as, I'm going to sign up for another small group next semester. Whatever your group members decide is their next step, we want to celebrate that. We want to encourage them to take that next step. So whether that's, maybe it's giving more, maybe it's serving in a new ministry area, whatever it is, honestly explore that next step for spiritual growth, because that's really what groups are about, is about growing spiritually. So that's the small group covenant. If once you go through all of that, you ask if there are any questions, you answer whatever questions may come up, and once you have done all of that, then you ask people to sign it, date it, and hand it in to you. And you collect all of those and you hold on to those as the small group leader. You find ways to, if somebody hasn't shown up for 2 weeks in a row, you go back and you say, look, you reach out to them, you talk to them, you find out what's going on in their life, and you remind them that they agreed to be part of this group, and that meant to come as regularly as they possibly could. So this offers you the opportunity to set the ground rules. It sets the playing field for the group. And when you do that, then it sets your group up for the best possible semester that you can have. And then God takes care of the work in our hearts and the work among the community, and God begins to move in that place. So we've covered a lot of ground in these last 3 videos. We talked about what the 4 F's of leading a small group are. We talked about even the mechanics of what a first session in your small group looks like. And even as far back as, what does a small group do? And what do you as a small group leader do? We've covered a lot of ground. We've done a lot of good work. But I want you to know that that's all good. I have some really good stuff for you in the next video. It's new content for you. It changes. This is the part of the training that changes every semester. I hope this is the part that you look forward to what's coming up next.